Hey fam, what's up? J. Anthony Thompson here with the Pivot Play podcast. And today we're going to do what I'm calling a Pivot Play pop-up. So this will just be a short segment based on ideas, thoughts that I have, things that I want to share with this audience. So we'll be doing these from time to time. Again, they won't take a long time for you to be able to get through the content. And so based on some things that we've done lately with a couple of our guests, I continue to think about what we talk about. And so a thought came into my head in the last week or so, just reviewing, video and some of those conversations. And it's around this idea of how do we actually get things done? So you have this business idea, you have this some sort of vision, mission, dream, could be a nonprofit, could be a side hustle, whatever. But at some point, um, it turns into real work. Like something needs to get done, and I've seen people, and I'll include myself in that, sometimes struggle with this ability to actually execute, and not just the work, but the result, right? Because you can put in a lot of work and be grinding it out, and there's just nothing coming out the other end. So you're not really seeing your dream or your vision come to pass. You're not seeing it materialize and become manifest in front of you. So let's talk about um, briefly here what this thought is that I have in my head, and it is simply around putting the work where it belongs. And so if you're anything like me, and I have a lot of ideas, things that I want to do, I have been that person who wanted to do it all from start to finish. I'm into it, and I'm going to make it happen. But the longer I'm at this and pursuing my own ideas and my own dreams, I'm realizing that, especially in today's world, when resources are so readily available, that is not the best use of my time. So I want to talk to you about putting work where it belongs. And then there's this idea that I've broken it down into these three categories. There's the me, there's the we, then there's the them. And if you have a business, a side hustle, a nonprofit, whatever it is, it's going to fall into these buckets. So let me explain. So when you have this new dream, this idea, this vision, there's the me. It's just you, right? And so your responsibility in that is to, if you imagine it as like a lump of clay, is to begin to give that some shape on its own. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be production ready, we'll call it. It doesn't have to be ready for sale. It simply has to begin to materialize the idea so that you can see it, so you can test it. There's a lot of ways to do that. Some people type it out, some people write it out, some people draw it out. But in no matter, it has to in some way get out of your head and become the beginnings of a real thing. So again, some people have lists, they have books. One of the methods that I personally use myself, I do what are called mind maps, right? And this may work for you, may not work for you. It's just mine. So what I'm sharing with you now is when I had the idea even to do pivot play, I created a mind map. And while this may look really complicated, it's not. Um, but it allowed me to take the core sort of topics, category areas around the podcast. And this is, again, hadn't done an episode, had never engaged a guest, hadn't written out a question. But what did I go through? It's like, okay, what topics, right? If you look on the far right, if you can see this, topics, right? So we have personal growth and mindset, ideation, self-learning, partnership, relationships, money, a bunch of stuff there for topics. Then up here, if you work your way up, it's talking about the audience, marketing and promotion. There's an area that talks about the purpose, opportunities for monetization, cost structures, technology, teams, guests, show format, cost, all those things. I wanted to just get it out of my head. And then as I go back and begin to do different parts of it, I can check those things off, or maybe they become their own sort of, I don't want to call it a mini project. It sounds really complicated, but in some ways, maybe that's what it is, a series of tasks that are connected to it. So for instance, when we talk about the technology, like there's nothing there. Because when I did the mind map, I didn't know how I wanted to do it. Do I want to do it live? Just do a regular Facebook lives? Do I find a platform? I just didn't know enough about it, so I had to go back and do some research. But this is just basically a mind map, and this is how Pivot Play really came about. But it was still this idea of how do I get it out of my head and into some form where it can begin to take shape. Okay, so then let's go back to our other image here. So that's the me part of it. And there's a lot of things in the me that I was able to do myself because of a certain skill set that I already have or things that I could learn quickly. But as with any venture, and I think it's important to say that you can have something that is just solely focused on the me, right? So let's say you have a side hustle that you've come up with, and it's going to make you, let's say, $250 to $500 a month, right? There are things that you can do with your own effort that could bring you $250 to $500 a month, and then essentially there is no we, there is no them, it's just me. But what I will challenge you with is now if you decide that I want to go from $250 a month to $500 a month, now I want to do $3,000 to $5,000 a month. Efforts that you start that are just me efforts typically don't scale. It doesn't mean that they're not good, that they're not successful. They simply won't scale. If you're going to get larger, then you're going to have to be able to bring other resources, other people. And now we get to the we. And this is important because a lot of people avoid the we because sometimes there's just complexities when working with people. That's just a fact. And some people don't have the skills or even the emotional intelligence to work with others. Some people have been bruised and hurt by previous engagements or things that they've done. And so now they're shy. So there can be a lack of trust and sometimes a lack of transparency. But what I'm saying to you is at some point, if you're going to scale your idea, there will have to be a we, and you have to be aware of the reasons why you resist the we, right? And it could be you could just have control issues, which has its basis in fear, which again is probably going to be based on a bad experience that you've had, or you have too much awareness of somebody else's bad experience. So you're not going that path. But let's say you're beyond all that and you're ready to engage a we. So here's me's responsibility to we. What me has to do is now be able to go back and take what is in your head and in your heart about your thing and now transfer that into the head and heart of someone else, right? Write the vision, make it plain so that those who read it can run. If you really want people to run with your idea, it won't be just sheer effort. There has to be some emotional connection. They have to be able to see themselves in it in order for you to not just get access to their head, but also to their heart. And you're going to have more success with people who, in some way, have an emotional attachment to what it is that you're doing. And this is just about human nature and our need for purpose. People need to feel that there's a why, there's a reason for what they're doing. And these people could be short term, they may be paid, they may not be paid. So an example of a we could be an accountability partner or someone who's just there to encourage you. It could be someone who is kind enough to review a document or something for you, but that still, defines part of what the we is about. There may be people who are engaged who now are a part of your thing. And so now there's discussions around, are they being paid? Is there ownership? Essentially, what is in it for them? And this is the piece that people skip past. And this is where problems can really occur. An unexposed agenda is the most dangerous agenda. People need to be forthright with what they want out of something. And me has the responsibility to say, this is how much I'm willing to give to get access to your participation, your cooperation, your skill set, your resources, whatever those things are, this is where it is. And it's okay to have someone who's part of your thing because they want to learn, because they want to do something similar. A lot of people would run away from that because they feel that what I'm now breeding is competition for my deal. But that's just around scarcity thinking. It's not anything to stop you. It's a big planet. And your audience may not be their audience. And so but again, these are the things that hang us up. But again, the biggest challenge is from me to we is for you to be able to take what is in your head and heart and now impart that into someone else's head and heart. Does there have to be transparency there? Absolutely. Does there have to be trust there? Absolutely. But this is just what it is, or you stay small, right? And you never get it off the ground, or it's $250 to $500 a month. All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about them. So them is really interesting because let's say like I'm building now my practice as a certified golf teaching professional. So there's things that have to be done, but I'm not doing them all. So for instance, there need to be a logo design. Now, can I go out and get the software and watch some videos on how-tos and all that sort of stuff and come up with a great logo? I could. It's just not the best use of my time. I need to be spending that time on something else. How am I going to build lesson plans? What structure am I going to use? What philosophy am I going to teach? Those are the things that really matter more. But I'm being transparent to say that it was a struggle for me to go to a website and write up this full description of what I want, pay for it, and then let it go out, into the interweb and then get these designs back. But the process turned out to be, again, still a bit challenging for me because I'm one of those people who, if I can do it myself, I'd rather do it myself, right? But again, the more I do this, it's probably not the best way to go. And what I got back was, let's say, 50 to 60 really unique designs, right? And going through the process of narrowing that down and choosing them. But now the them, which is largely your outsourced category of things, the them was getting something done that was not the best use of my time. Another example of a them is, let's say you need a legal structure for your thing. You're not an attorney. So you go out, you hire an attorney, you have that engagement, they do the work, you pay them, you move on, you got what you need. That's a great example of a them. It's all generally outsourcing. So it could be a one-time event. It could be ongoing. So let's say now you need an accountant. Well, you may interact with that accountant on a monthly basis, right? Reviewing, your P&L, your income, your cost, and most importantly, paying your taxes. So that's a variety of them that it's recurring. It's going to be there for a while. So I don't want to drag this out, but I want you to consider your current thing, right? Your goal, your dream, your vision, your business, your side hustle, whatever it is. And when you look at the work that has to be done, all I want you to do is just put me, we, and them. And if it's me for 100% of it, again, it may be successful, but it probably won't scale. If it's we, then you need to start to think about who the we is. Who do you really want to be engaged with? Who can you build relationship, trust, and transparency, knowing their integrity, but also knowing their agendas and you sharing your agenda with them to build the right we. And if there's some skills that you lack in terms of how to build and oversee a team, then that goes on your me list to learn how to effectively lead a team. And then them, it's a wonderful world that we live in. I don't care what it is that you need for the most part. Again, whether it's legal, whether it's financial, whether it's design, whether it's technical, you need a personal assistant. You can get access to all those things from your phone, from a tablet, from a computer, and somebody in the world is out there to help you mobilize your thing. Now, again, you might need something like an NDA, which is a non-disclosure agreement. So if you want to have some level of confidence that your idea uh, can be held, in confidence by other people, you can do an NDA. Another thing that you can do is in the me stage, when you first come up with the idea and you begin to document the idea and the audience or who the customer is and the product and all those things, take a copy of that, put it in a sealed envelope, and send it to yourself certified mail. That locks down a date around the origin of that idea. And so maybe that'll give you a bit more confidence. But anyway, take your thing and just document the me steps, the we steps, the them steps, and see how you can get your thing up and running faster than you probably could have before, and then to determine how it can scale. All right. That's your Pivot Play pop up on putting work where it belongs.